All right, everyone, let's break down what's really unfolding out there. Because this winter isn't just another chilly season, it's shaping up to be a full-scale atmospheric showdown. Forget the calm, picture-perfect postcard winter. This is a clash of colossal air masses, a meteorological battlefield that could literally split the nation in two. North versus south, cold versus warmth, blizzard versus drought. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which side your backyard belongs to. I've been digging deep into this pattern, analyzing 7 historical analog winters dating back to 1989. We've combed through American, Canadian, and European model data, and for once, they're all singing the same tune. The verdict? Many regions are about to experience their snowiest winter in years, with totals running 120 to 150% above normal. Meanwhile, parts of the South may be left wondering if winter even decided to show up at all. But before we get carried away by the hype, let's lay down the foundation, because this setup is unlike anything we've seen in a while. I call it a ghost La Niña. Technically it exists, but it's barely clinging on. Sea surface temperatures across the equatorial Pacific are hovering roughly 0.3 degree Celsius below normal, just enough to distort the jet stream, but not strong enough to control it outright. When La Niña behaves like this, it tends to push the storm track northward, locking in colder air for the northern U.S. while keeping the southern tier warmer and drier. It's a familiar pattern, but this year there's a twist. That twist is called the Pacific Decadal Oscillation, PDO, and it's the real heavyweight this season. Right now, it's sitting in one of the strongest negative phases in recent memory. Think of it as La Niña's big brother, same kind of influence, but on a much grander scale. When the PDO turns negative, it reinforces the entire setup: frigid north, mild south, and a storm track that snakes right along the dividing line. 2 forces, both amplifying the same cold northern chorus. And that's why I have so much confidence in this forecast. By the way, if you'd like a detailed forecast for your specific region or city, drop it in the comments below. I'll respond individually when time allows. And if you enjoy this kind of deep dive content, make sure to like the video and subscribe. It truly helps the channel grow. Now, let's talk history, because this isn't speculation. The past backs it up. When I compared today's setup with previous winters, 7 years stood out as nearly identical. 1989 to 90, 1995, 96, 2013 to 14, Twissint, and a few others in between. All of them shared weak La Niñas, negative PDOs, and similar Atlantic warmth. And the results? Explosive snow seasons across the northern states. Chicago topped 80 inches in 2013 and 14. Detroit piled up 94 inches. Boston was buried under 58 inches. And in the legendary winter of 1995-96, the East Coast was crushed by the blizzard of 96. Overlay those winters together, and the pattern becomes crystal clear. The northern U.S. averaged 115 for 130% of normal snowfall, while the southern tier lagged far behind at 50-70%. The Great Lakes region, in particular, lights up like a Christmas tree on every composite map. And here's something truly fascinating. In every single one of those analog years, there was at least one unforgettable event: a record-breaking cold outbreak, a historic blizzard, something people still talk about decades later. That's not luck. That's a recurring atmospheric signature. History might not repeat perfectly, but it definitely rhymes. So, yes, I believe we're heading into one of those remember this winter kind of years. Whether it's a bone-chilling Arctic blast or a monster snowstorm, something big is bound to stand out. Now, let's move on to the wild card in this entire equation: the polar vortex. Hovering nearly 60,000 feet above the North Pole, this massive circulation controls much of the winter's fate. And right now, the data shows signs of instability. The easterly phase of the quasi-biennial oscillation, QBO, upper-level winds blowing opposite their usual direction, is putting serious strain on the vortex. And when that happens, well, that's when the real chaos begins. When you combine all of this, a weak La Niña and a strongly negative PDO, you get a roughly 60 to 75% chance that the polar vortex weakens or even splits apart this winter. And when that happens, buckle up. That's when those massive Arctic invasions come roaring down across the United States, the kind that shatter temperature records from Montana all the way to Florida. We've seen it before: December 1989, 2017, 2018. Each time an explosive outbreak of cold swept across the nation. Sometimes it came with snow, sometimes just with that biting, bone-chilling air that makes everything freeze solid. But here's the catch: a polar vortex disruption doesn't automatically mean snow. Sometimes it just brings dry, brutal cold. It all depends on whether those Arctic surges connect with southern moisture. If they do, we're talking historic blizzard potential. If not, it's simply going to be painfully, mercilessly cold. Now let's bring this forecast home, region by region, and see what it actually means for you. If you're north of Interstate 80, we're talking Montana. The Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, upstate New York, congratulations, you've basically won the snow lottery this year. Expect 20 to 40% above normal snowfall, easily. Montana could reach the top end of that range, around 40% above average. Big Sky, Jackson Hole. This is shaping up to be a dream season with 400 to 500 inches in the higher elevations. Minneapolis, you're looking at 65 to 75 inches, while Chicago could see 50 to 60 inches, all well above normal. Once January hits, that pattern will lock in. Those fast-moving Alberta clippers, quick-hitting northern systems, will roll through every 5 to 7 days. Each one drops 2 to 5 inches at a time, and those totals stack up fast. And then there are the Great Lakes. And oh man, the lake effect snow machine is about to go absolutely berserk. Water temperatures are running 2 to 4 degrees above normal, which means Buffalo, brace yourselves. I'm not exaggerating when I say you could top 100 inches this year. Up in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, totals of 250 to 350 inches are absolutely on the table. That's measured in yards, not feet. Expect thunders now burst, dumping 2 to 3 feet at a time when Arctic air collides with those warm lake waters. Out west, this is the kind of season you've been waiting for. The Cascades, Rockies, Mount Baker, Crystal Mountain, and Stevens Pass all look primed for above normal snowfall, possibly 40% more in spots. But for California, especially the Sierra Nevada, things look different. Mother Nature's tapping the brakes a bit. Lake Tahoe might end up around 300 to 350 inches, down from the usual 400 plus, and the Southern Sierra may only see half of its average. Still, there's a late season wildcard. About half of our analog winters brought a February moisture surge from the Pacific, so don't count California out completely. Now heading east, Boston, I've got you pegged around 45 to 50 inches, right in the normal to slightly above normal range. New York City is the ultimate wildcard. You could see 15 inches or 35, depending entirely on storm tracks. If Arctic air syncs perfectly with coastal moisture, you'll get classic nor'easters that bury the city. If not, you'll just watch them slide harmlessly out to sea. For the Ohio Valley, Cincinnati, Louisville, Indianapolis, you're sitting right on the battle line. I'm not seeing huge snow totals, likely near or slightly below average, but there's an elevated risk of major ice events. Several of our analog winters featured crippling ice storms in this corridor, so it's worth watching closely. And every so often, one of those Arctic fronts sinks just right with Gulf moisture. That's when you can get a surprise blockbuster snowstorm. Just don't bet on it this year. Further south, Atlanta, Charlotte, Nashville, I won't sugarcoat it. You might not even want to call this a winter. It's going to feel more like an extended fall that occasionally flirts with cold air. Maybe 1 or 2 small events, perhaps an inch in Atlanta, 2 to 4 inches in Charlotte or Nashville, but overall, you'll likely be watching the rest of the country shovel out while you're mowing your lawn in February. As for Houston, Miami, Phoenix, nothing for you. 0 snow. The only thing worth watching will be occasional severe weather, particularly late January through February, when cold fronts clash with Gulf moisture. But snow? Not a chance. Bottom line, the north wind's big this year. The south, not so much. And that's a reversal from last year, when the south stole the spotlight with that rare Gulf Coast blizzard near the beaches of Florida. This time, the script is flipped. Millions across the northern tier are about to endure one of the snowiest winters they've seen in years. Thank you guys. See you next video.